So let's talk about. We got a couple side scrollers on here, similar genre.
Yeah.
The main two that we remember as being like ones that were decent were Contra and Castlevania.
Right. For me, I didn't particularly care too much for the Contra game. I always thought the Nintendo one was better. And the Castlevania one was interesting because I always felt that it was in Nintendo's like pick 10 arcade games. I never really played the original side scroller because I know that the real side scroller is called Haunted Castle. And it looks more like Castlevania from the Super Nintendo. I just know this.
Right? No. No judgments here.
Yeah, I just
no
know
judgments here
because I know this. But for me, Contra was okay. I thought maybe Magic Sword was a better side scroll. I didn't put that down.
No, I never played Magic Sword.
Magic Sword was good. Magic Sword was real good.
I might have. It sounds familiar. I don't remember what it looks like.
But Contra is good. I had familiarity to the one on NES.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I
Yeah.
didn't care too much for the one on
Not a side scroller, more of a vertical scroller. But Akari Warriors is one that I played a
Akari
lot.
Warriors. Well, Akari Warriors is in that genre with like Bionic Commando. Well, Bionic Commando was
Side scroller.
The side scroller, but Commando was that
Yes.
way. Yeah.
And one thing I loved about the Akari Warriors arcade game that was very difficult about the NES version is that the arcade game, the joystick was this weird, like, I don't know, like, it wasn't a hectagon, but it had like a bunch of like,
Yes.
it wasn't a round joystick, but what was awesome is that you could move it up, down, left, right, but you could rotate it.
Yeah, because the Akari Warriors, you could go 360.
Yeah, 360,
all
yeah.
around.
And that was a big thing about it because you'd have enemies coming from all directions.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when you were firing, you had to go any degree. And that was one thing I really liked about that game. And then you get in that stupid little tank and run around.
Yeah,
boom, boom,
yeah,
boom. But
yeah. Akari Warriors. There was that with Guerrilla Wars was too.
Yep.
Guerrilla Wars. It's pretty much a different skin for Akari Warriors.
What about Russian Attack?
Russian Attack was a good side scroller, by the way. It depends on which one you got because it was either Green Beret or Russian Attack. It was the same game. It just depend where you were. You got which one.
Ones were Green Beret, the other ones were Spetsnaz.
I think that's because you were the same kind of person. You were a Green Beret attacking a Russian outpost or something. That's why it's called Green Beret or Russian Attack.
Okay.
It's Rush apostrophe N apostrophe attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Russian Attack or Green Beret.
Yeah.
So you were Green Beret attacking a Soviet outpost or something like that, which was a good game, by the way.
Yeah, it was.
a good game.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk beat 'em ups. We've got Double Dragon, Alien vs Predator, Brad Dudes, POW, Punisher, Gauntlet, Altered Beast, Shinobi, Narc, Avengers, and another classic. This actually could be a classic. Is Rampage.
Rampage. See, the problem with Rampage, like first of all, the quintessential beat 'em up, which started them all, is Double Dragon.
Those games were fantastic.
Double Dragon. It's funny because you look back on it. At the very beginning of Double Dragon, you get the gang members, punching a woman in her gut.
That got me in two spots because one, I'd watch it and be like, "Whoa, you hit my lady!" But then I'd be like, "But then the dude, I think it was like a Bodo or whoever. I don't know who it was.
It was the last guy.
Yeah, okay, the last guy. He punches her in the gut, flings her over his shoulder, and he's walking away. But you see a little white dot in between her legs, and they actually had pixels of her panties.
Right.
I was like, oh, hello. I have to go save this sweet.
And
thing.
this spawned all the Final Fight. No, the Final Fight's the one for Capcom, right?
But still, because Double Dragon's a Data East game.
Data East game. Bad Dudes is a Data East game, which was before that too.
Karnov is a Data East game.
Karnov is Data East game.
Who ironically is in Bad Dudes.
He isn't bad. He's actually one of the
He's the first boss.
Is it the first boss or the second boss? No, he is the first boss. Yeah, Karnov is the very first boss in Bad Dudes, which is. I'm assuming that they try to make a sequel to
Karnov?
Not Karnov, but to Double Dragon.
Yeah.
But I guess it didn't work well, so they made Bad Dudes. Because look, it's a very similar game.
Yeah.
You have two brothers.
There's like 3 Double Dragons, I believe.
There is 3
But I
Double
don't know if they're all
Dragons.
For arcade. For arcade, there's 3.
Yeah,
there's
Or at least 2, I know.
Yeah.
What about Rygar?
Rygar, I'd put it in the same. No, because it's not a beat 'em up. That's a side scroller.
It's a side scroller.
It's a side scroller.
But
it's a side scroller with the same likes of Black Tiger. If you guys played that game, or it's either Black Tiger or Black Dragon.
So
Depends
it's more of a hack and slash.
It's a hack and slash. Yeah,
that's right.
And like Gauntlet is an adventure game. Dungeon crawler adventure game.
Fuck, I want to play Gauntlet right now.
Gauntlet's good, dude. Gauntlet's really good. But for this one, Double Dragon. Gotta play Double Dragon. Gotta play Bad Dudes. And then you succeedingly go into the Predator versus Aliens, which is in the mid 90s.
Alien vs. Predator is fantastic.
Alien versus, it's a fantastic game.
Shinobi?
Shinobi is one of the it's in that same, it's the same like 80s one. Great game. Its subsequent sequels aren't very good, but that game, Shinobi, has great music.
Yep.
Great graphics.
Yep.
Great gameplay. It's an amazing game.
Great bonus level.
Welcome to bonus stage. It's
First person ninja star throwing.
It's amazing. It's
That was
great.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
So let's talk about some shooters.
Shooters, we're talking about like the flight shooters,
We're
or
talking
the light.
Silent Scope.
Oh, so the light gun
Aliens,
games. Oh, great.
Time
All right.
Crisis, House of the Dead, and a couple of Devo specials.
All right.
Lethal Enforcers.
Let's start with
Yeah.
one of the ones that actually came out first, which is Operation Wolf. I don't know if you remember.
Oh God, that sounds so familiar.
Operation Wolf, and then after that, it's Operation. That's like one of the first ones I ever played. I think it's one of the first ones that actually came out. But I don't think it's a quintessential one because it's actually pretty bad.
And when we say shooters, we mean like
The
this,
light- the
this
light
is the
gun.
precursor to
Yeah.
like Call of Duty and stuff like. These games are like a Call of Duty type. In the way
No,
in which
these
you-
are Duck Hunt style
They're
games.
Duck Hunt style games. They're not.
Because they don't have really any sort of like FPS style game.
No,
in
they're
the
not.
arcade.
They do.
They're not
Like
FPS
what?
At all.
Silent Scope is like a first-person shooter.
No, it's a light gun game.
It's a light gun game.
But it's still first person. Like
No,
you're
no,
seeing
no.
through the
So
person's eyes.
is Time Crisis. So
Yeah,
It
is.
is.
Yeah,
No,
but these aren't. But an FPS shooter, you have freedom to move around
Yeah,
the world.
no,
These
no,
are
you're
I said these are the
These are-
precursor to those games. Call
I
of
wouldn't
Duty-
even call them precursors,
Wow.
but these are like because
light
these
gun
games.
That's why I asked you.
So
if it's a
these
light gun
games,
game.
yeah. So these games, they start off with stages, where right, and you just shooting a stage, and then they go into a rail game. Like Time Crisis is a rail game, where there's
Yeah.
a specific path your characters follow, and you just make sure you blast everybody on.
Yeah.
on
And
the way.
like I said, if you played Operation Thunder, Operation Wolf, it's like you start off, you see your character. You don't even see your character. You see like screens running towards you, make you seem like you have depth.
yeah.
And then like with guys shooting around and whatnot. But anyway, the quintessential ones I would say would be probably the Terminator game, which is fun.
I forgot about
Revolution X, which is pretty much a different skin for that Terminator
Okay,
game.
the Terminator game is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, it's an amazing game.
But the Revolution X, the only thing that's really good about the Revolution X game is the fact that it's got an Aerosmith soundtrack.
No,
because
I thought that and its absurdity. It
Yeah.
is so absurd.
The basic story,
It's so
gist
fun.
of the story is the fact that some dude has stolen all the music in the world, and you and Aerosmith are on a covert mission or whatever to go recover all the music.
And we kid you not, when it's fuck you have what's the gaming guy from Aerosmith? What's his name?
Not Mick Jagger.
Steven Tyler.
There you go.
He goes. He's
Mick
like
Jagger.
yelling at you, going,
Yeah.
nice shot.
And then-
literally, that's what he's doing.
And
It's
wouldn't
so
like
funny.
members of the band pop up and give you like either pointers or like
No,
be
they,
like,
like,
hey,
give you
good job
power-ups and stuff like that.
It's like,
Yeah,
"Jeez,
it's-
fucking
it's
go away,
so
Steve
funny.
Perry, or
So
not
funny.
Steve Perry, fucking Joe Perry.
Luckily, it moved up to games like Silent Scope and Silent
Yes.
Scope X and Police Trainer, which is I think one of the best light gun games. I love Police Trainer. If you guys ever played it.
What about Area 51? What are your thoughts? on Area
I thought
51?
Area 51 was kind of hacky. It's not very good. What do you think?
I prefer House of Dead.
House of the Dead was good.
House of the Dead.
House of the Dead had the Resident Evil flavor
Yeah.
to it, but it wasn't Resident Evil. Mm-hmm. But House of the Dead was good. House of the Dead was good. I like House of the Dead.
On here you have Lucky and Wild listed as well.
Yeah. So have you ever played Lucky and Wild?
I don't think I have. 'cause
One
I've
thing
never
that's
heard of
really cool about Lucky and Wild that I really, really liked is that it was a driving shooter game. So
it. Yes.
it was a
I think I
two-player
have played
game.
This game.
The person on the left-hand side would be driving, and there was a gun.
Yeah,
so
I
you'd be
remember
driving
this.
and you could shoot your gun. And then the dude on the right had to shoot a gun. So there were times where, like, because I'd go to a lot of arcades with my dad. And so either I would just drive and then my dad would shoot both guns, or he would drive and then I would shoot both guns, or, whatever.
I
But,
remember
like,
this game,
It was a really, really interesting sort of aspect about the game.
No.
Okay, let's talk racing game.
Yes.
Okay.
Some of the big ones. I mean, these are the ones that I think if you're gonna play racing games, like arcade games, like these are the ones that like were everywhere. We're seen everywhere. I'm talking Daytona USA. I'm talking
Yeah.
Cruising USA. I'm talking Outrun, Ridge Racer, Pole Position.
Yeah, Pole Position.
There's even some other ones that you mentioned, Devo, Super Off-Road and Crazy Taxi. Maybe not as well known.
Crazy, yeah. I
but
put Crazy Taxi on
but
there.
It's just a good game.
I mean, at the time, and it also had a really good soundtrack. It had like a sort of because it was like how Tony Hawk had a bunch of like light or rock and punk and stuff and ska.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy Taxi had the same thing. It had Offspring, a bunch of other bands like that. But I can't remember who the guy is, but the Super Off-Road game. What was really cool about it is that it wasn't just a sort of we're going around the track or you're going around the Ferrari track. It was sort of an isometric third-person view, and you had to spin the wheel, and the wheels were super loose, and like there was like when you play a lot of these driving games nowadays, like you can only turn the wheel certain degrees. This one would go
Iron Man Stewart Super Off-Road. That's
there you go.
Called. This is
the tracks were awesome. There were jumps that you could do.
Yeah, it was fun.
But what was really awesome about it, and I don't recall any other racing game doing this, but this was the first racing game where you can get power-ups.
Yeah.
Not power-ups, but you can
Cruising USA, you could
upgrades for your car.
No, but this was
upgrades. So like at the end of a stage, you'd be like, oh, you earned X amount of dollars. You can go in and you can improve your tires. You could buy a stronger engine, but more nitro boost, stuff like that, to where you can make a much better car to progress better in the races that are coming.
Like so like a little RPG-ish element. In arcade game.
And that's something like I even to this day I can't even think of another racing game outside of like getting a booster, like running over those speed arrows or like a maybe I don't know. A gun enhancement or something stupid like that. Yeah. I can't think of another racing game that gave you the ability to upgrade your vehicle to improve further down the game.
Yeah. For me, I think although I mean there was different versions of Pole Position, and I played pretty much all of them. Pole Position, pretty much I think it was the first sit down racing game from my recollection.
Yeah, I think so.
Is probably one of my quintessentials to play, and that and Outrun. So I would say in this progression, I played Pole Position, Outrun, because that's like 81 to like 88 or something like that.
And Outrun had didn't have any like famous songs, but it had a very rocking soundtrack.
Great soundtrack. Yeah, it had a great soundtrack. Yeah.
It had the Ferrari Testarossa. At that time, if you're not born in the 80s or you don't really understand,
that was the
Testarossa was the car.
That was the car.
Yeah.
And
one thing that was great about the game too is that as you're racing in a convertible. So like there's no top, but you got this sweet blonde sitting next to you.
And if you crash, people fly out.
She went flying.
Yeah. That was funny.
But they didn't die.
No.
This is before Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, it wasn't like Excite Bike where you just got up and walked back to the car or anything like that, but your car would just boom, reappear and you'd be good to go.
You'd lose though, because
obviously, yeah.
But that was a game that actually had like car damage.
Yeah, your car would get messed up.
Not that many other games had that.
Not at the time. No, at the time.
I will say one thing about Pole Position though, not arcade related, but the commercial for the Atari version is probably one of the greatest commercials I've ever seen in my life, because it starts off with like this family of four, mom, dad, wife, or son, daughter in the back, driving up. The dad looks like a complete computer geek and whatnot. And this is early 80s. And the announcer goes, "What are you guys doing this Sunday?"
Sunday.
And the dad's like, "Oh, we're going for a nice family drive." He's like, "No, you're playing Pole Position." And all of a sudden, like, it shows the family like flying out of the air, and they all land in like the Indy cars, and they're all driving down, and then the announcer goes, "Pole Position," and then like the son's driving and goes, "Oh," and he hits a slick, goes flying into an advertisement. The car blows up, and then the same thing happens. Like, and then like it's showing like it's cutting between the real life actors driving around the cars and then like the video game version, and like the cars in the video game are sliding off the road and blowing up, and it shows like the mom sliding off and hitting something and blowing up, and then the end of the commercial, they're all just sitting there like with their hair's all messed up, blacks all over their face, and like Pole Position. It's like the greatest commercial I've ever seen in my life.
All right. I mean, Cruising USA is a classic. I mean, they made so many of them, so it kind of got watered down, but the original was a huge game. Yeah. But I would say my favorite arcade racer, because my favorite racer of all time is Need for Speed, but that was never really in the car arcade. My favorite is Daytona USA.
Yeah.
The one that you could play like with 5 people or something, or 6 people?
I mean,
that's the one that they had at Dave and Buster's when we used to go.
Yeah, I mean,
that was fun, by the way.
Yeah.
I mostly, because I used to work at Round Table and they had a machine there, but it was a single player machine. Right. I remember I used to do like the time trials, and like these guys that I played with got so good. They would like be setting these records. I don't even understand how they did it, but it was like a kind of a realistic NASCAR type game where you had to like drift behind people and stuff like that. And they had time trials, they had races and stuff, and you had the circuit and everything. And like depending on like what way you looked at it, like if you looked at it from like in front of they had like the first person mode where like you were in front of the bumper.
Yeah.
And they had like the third person mode where you could actually see the car. But like when you had those games where you had like the third person mode of driving, like it doesn't handle the same. But if you're like in front of the bumper, it handles completely differently. And I just remember playing that game so much. It had like an actual steering wheel.
Yeah.
And you sat down in this one, and I just remember playing that. We played it so much. We just played it so much, and it was never broken. Really, it just played solidly all the time.
I remember Daytona. You could either go to automatic or you go manual. So you had the manual. Actually had to hit the clutch and stuff.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
really cool. Yeah,
And it wasn't easy either. You know what I mean?
No, that game was hard as hell.
It was a difficult game to get good at.
Even when I was sober, I sucked at it.
I was terrible at the game, and after 3 beers, I got worse, and then after the 6th one, I got hella better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no Arctic Thunder.
But it did have 4 gears. You're right. It did have like 4 gears. I don't know if there were that many other games that required you to change gears. Like
I think that was the one that kind of set the precedent.
No, because Cruising USA, you had a you had a clutch and you can choose.
But it was a little. No, actually, no. There was no there was no clutch. There was a stick.
There was a stick,
but
there was no clutch. Yeah, but that one actually had a clutch on it. If you had the good machine, you had a clutch on it. Yeah, that was a good game.
So let's talk about sports games.
Sports games is a funny thing.
They're really popular.
They are popular, but like you didn't see too many of them.
I was just
in
gonna
the
say,
arcade.
They're not
a whole lot.
I think
Because-
and the funny thing here's the funny thing to me about sports games is like when you play a sports game, like the arcade version of the
'cause
sports
you
game,
are-
it becomes like a genre of itself within sports games.
Yeah, because you have you
Yeah.
have the arcade sports games, and you have and which we're going to mention here, which is NBA Jam, which is possibly I think one of the most famous
arcade.
Dare I say the greatest sports
game.
arcade
I
game.
agree because it was a
Probably.
great
Yeah.
game.
NFL Blitz.
That it made NFL Blitz because they're the same makers.
Yeah.
Devin's got a couple hockey games.
Yeah,
on
some
it.
hockey games.
So Hit the Ice is one. It was
Right,
it was a 2 versus 2 sort of just kind of like an arcade, not a fighting game, but like you were just like Goonie players and yeah, you were supposed to play hockey, but there was a lot of fighting involved, and they really focused on fighting and just the violence sort of aspect
Right.
of it. And then there was the 2-on-2 NHL Open Ice Challenge, which was sort of a 'cause, like with NBA Jam, like. Did they have actual was it pixels or was it like actual digitized version of the
Digitized
character?
versions, but they had big heads.
Yeah,
but
so-
they actually had the real players' faces. That's why the Jordan was never in there because
Yeah.
they couldn't get his license.
And this was that version for the NHL. And so you had the actual player faces like Madonna and even like the goalies, like they wouldn't have like their actual faces because they're wearing masks, but it would be like their actual painted helmets or whatever
That's
mask they wore. So it was like the NBA. It was the
Was it
hockey
made by
version.
Midway? Because they were the
I wanna
ones that
say
make it.
yeah.
So
maybe.
it was basically endorsed by the NHL Players Association.
Yes.
like
yes.
like NFL Blitz was and NBA Jam where they actually had the real teams.
Yes.
and the real players. I because when you play some of these like even console games, they'll be like arcade version.
Yep.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
there's no fouls and there's no this and that. But like these games, and obviously these games are arcadey type games. They're not simulations. And I know like people have like Madden and stuff like that on arcade now. You can go to like Dave & Buster's and play Madden, whatever
okay.
have you. And they have like you play multiplayer and all that stuff. But these games are like a different type of sports game because if you've only played like console games in the last couple of years, really there aren't really a lot of games that are like this out there. And NBA Jam was I think 3-on-3. NFL Blitz.
No, it was 2-on-2.
2-on-2.
It was 2-on-2.
Yeah.
It was 2-on-2. You had your
2-on-2.
You had. I remember for the Bulls, you had Pippen, and you had Pippen,
Ron Harper. But
Yeah.
you could choose from multiple.
Yeah,
you had
choose
more than two
Pippen,
players to choose
Rodman,
from.
Pippen, Rodman, and
there was a white dude.
Tony Kukoc?
Yeah.
Tony Kukoc?
I think so.
And all I remember is like I always pick what Charlotte had Mutombo on it, because it was Mutombo,
And they had
he's on fire.
Bogues.
Muggsy Bogues for Charlotte.
Yeah.
Larry Johnson, I think, was the other guy.
So it was 2-on-2.
And NFL Blitz was I think it was 3 on.
Blitz was
No,
interesting.
Blitz was
when-
like five or
Five,
five,
you like,
or
you like,
something like that.
The thing is with Blitz is that since like it was like the 5 best players of that team or something like that, and you like just light people up. It was what NBA Jam is for the NBA and for the NFL.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
One thing that was really great about NFL Blitz, and I don't know if it was NFL Blitz or like NFL Blitz 2000 or something stupid, but when it was on the N64. With the N64, you had these little packs, these controller packs that you had to put in the controller. It was a memory pack.
Yeah.
What was great is that you could take that memory pack out, go to the arcade, plug it in, and your player profile would be at that arcade game. So you can add to your wins, your losses, and your character profile and your rating and all that. Then take it back home and play some more.
Yeah.
I remember in that game that you had to like pick plays because in like NBA Jam and the hockey game you don't have that.
No,
Right.
that
you
dynamic.
just playing,
But in the football you had to pick plays, and I remember there was this thing where you like press like up, and like it hid your cursor so they couldn't see what plays you were picking.
Nice.
And I think that was arcade did that too. And I remember because obviously you could see
Yeah.
what the guy was picking.
Oh, you're going to do a Hail Mary.
All right.
You got a running play.
And I remember that was the thing is that like you would play with guys and there would be like this rule that you don't do that.
Yeah,
You have to show your play.
That's like when you used
And
to
it made
play
it
like
harder.
that's like when you used to play like Luigi and stuff in Madden, right? It's like you're looking at my fucking plays.
Exactly. You don't look at the plays, right? You know?
Because Madden doesn't have that feature, right?
I mean, Madden, you don't have to because you see the plays on the screen and you just press the button. So they may be able to see like what formation you're in,
But it wouldn't, like,
they won't
flash
tell,
or anything,
They
say,
won't tell
hey.
you what play it is and stuff.
Gotcha.
But you know, it's just one of those little things. But I really think that NBA Jam was like, I mean, there's certain cultural things about NBA Jam that like people still say today. Like people still mention it when you watch basketball games. Like he's on fire.
He's on fire,
Like
exactly.
you know what I mean? Like they
Whoa.
actually went on fire. Like the ball was on fire.
Yeah, seriously.
you
When he
know?
was like
Boom shakalaka.
Yeah, just that kind of stuff. And like you could steal the ball and you could put in all the dunks and stuff like that. Like you could dunk from the 3-point line.
You could play as Bill Clinton,
Yeah.
Santa Claus,
The Wolfman.
the Wolfman.
And you could, and I mean, I think it was like a quarter per quarter. So you had to pay, you had to pay $1 to play the whole game.
It depends on what the setting was.
Yeah.
'Cause it was either quarter for quarter. Like I feel like it was $1 per quarter on someone. It was ridiculous. Dude.
Yeah, I
That's when
remember.
it had the settings for it. So.
I can't remember where I used to play it, but it would be a quarter per half.
Yeah,
So you play the
that's a
first
good
two
one.
quarters.
That's a really good one. Yeah.
Yeah, so you
That's
put in a
really
quarter, you
good.
play the first two quarters, and then you get to halftime, and it's like if you want to continue, boom, 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 put in another quarter.
That's really good.
Yeah.
But Midway made it. The same people that made
Midway Ballot. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had the life.
And honorable mentions for me is like if you guys people think that
Well, we didn't talk about another genre of sports games that was hugely influential for us, and that's wrestling.
right.
Oh, yeah.
For me, not so much. I didn't really care too much for the wrestling. I thought they were kind of weak on my part, to be honest with you. Like even like the WWF
blaspheme.
ones. Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
I know. But it's like I would rather waste my money on like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter.
Right.
These
rather
games
than
kind of
going-
predated those games a little bit, like Superstars and stuff and whatever. Maybe
Superstar-
WrestleFest was
maybe
around that time.
Superstars, maybe, but then at that point, I'd rather play Bad Dudes and Double Dragon.
Sure. Yeah.
I just remember
Well,
going to the
anyways,
flea
for
market
you
and they had
guys, for you guys,
Superstars
go.
and it
And
was
then
just
for me,
great.
like those two games, because they're one's a sequel to the other. The gameplay I think is personally like fantastic. It's
which
not what
Which one?
for WrestleFest or
Oh,
Superstars
WrestleFest,
or whatever. And I mean, it's you don't have full control as a wrestler, but I mean, you're playing as Hulk Hogan, you're playing as Ultimate Warrior. You get to
Right.
play as Demolition. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I can't recall any other game where I got to play as Demolition. And at the time, Demolition was my favorite tag team.
Right.
So I'd always pick those fools. But the graphics, they'd come
Devo
down.
was into S&M, by the way.
I was. And I always paint my face. No, but those games, they're so much fun. They're just kind of arcadey, beat 'em up wrestling games.
They are,
And you got
they
to
are.
get to a point where you could do your finisher. And Jake the Snake would do his DDT, Hogan would do his leg drop, Warrior would do the press and the slam. It's like that was cool. Like at the time, the only wrestling game that I was playing that I think at the time the only other like WWF wrestling game was WrestleMania, and it was just basically run around the ring and punch and kick.
Yeah.
And there was like nothing to it. But those games are great. And I used to play, was it the main event?
Yeah.
And the main event, it's kind of hard. I should have watched some of the videos before talking about it. But one thing that really stood out to me is that they had clear clones of famous WWF superstars. So I don't remember a lot of the names, but there was one. I remember Conan the Conqueror, and he wore white boots, white trunk, long white hair, long white handlebar mustache, and it was a clear clone of Hulk Hogan. They had a Ricky the Dragon Steamboat clone, Andre the Giant clone, King Kong Bundy clone. They had a Coco Beware clone. And
They
it was
really?
it was just a sort of like, and you would be a tag team, and then you would go, and then it's basically just fighting other tag teams, whoever you choose. You could be Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. You could be Hulk Hogan and Coco Beware, fighting against other tag teams, going up to win the tag team championship.
One of the other types of I love all the wrestling games, by the way. And I actually think that I mean, as far as older games, classic games, my favorite wrestling game of all time is Royal Rumble for Super Nintendo, and I think that that game is like the concept behind it, the way in which you play the game is based on those arcade games.
Definitely.
And I think that Royal Rumble did it the best, and so I thank those games for creating Royal Rumble.
Yep, main event.
And so, but
so bad.
one last thing I wanted to talk about, but I couldn't find the name of this, was the boxing game at Dave & Buster's. I have no idea what it was called, but you actually put on like little gloves that you held onto, and you would have to actually duck and you had to actually punch and stuff like that, and you had to go up against different champions. It looked like a Punch-Out type game, like the Punch-Out arcade type game, but it was just like a, I don't know.
I remember having to squat a lot, doing the squats, and then we'd get done, and my quads would just be on fire.
I remember it had like a counter for how many calories you were burning.
Yep.
Too. I love that game. It was great.
How are you squatting? How are you throwing punches?
I was never good at it. I was too big. I'm a big guy. Like I got too tired. I'm like Butterbean.
I remember we just kept throwing so many jabs and just try to haymaker all we could. Just da. Oh, and then you had to put your hands up in front of you to block.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was a fun game.
It was good.
Okay, so let's wrap this up now. We're going to wrap it up with our final thing about this arcade guide is, I think maybe this could be maybe even as important as some of the other information we've given.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the games to avoid.
Dragon's Lair, the fantasy adventure where you become a valiant knight on a quest to rescue the fair princess from the clutches of an evil dragon.
Terrible arcade games out there.
And I know there's more out there because the ratio to good games to bad games.
But these are actually ones that people, like, some people might think are good games.
Yeah,
and they're not.
They're terrible games. They're terrible
like
games.
fucking Dragon's Lair.
Dragon's Lair.
Avoid that game at all costs.
Like, it was a cool idea. You got to see
fantastic
like
idea.
They had great
3D
graphics too at the
holograms and
time.
stuff.
Well, because it was animation straight from the movie.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with Dragon's Lair, it's an animated movie, and I don't even remember what the point is. It's that you're a knight and you got to go save the princess
that
from a
good
demon.
of a movie.
No, but what was great about the video game is that it was an interactive animation. So the video game would start off and you'd be watching the animation, and then something would happen, and you had to make a decision in order to progress through the game. And what was weird is that you had a joystick and you had a left and right button, and then something would flash on the screen real quick, and you had to move in that direction or hit that button in order to progress this. It was kind of like a very interactive choose your own adventure sort of thing, or QuickTime movements. It says hit X. It was that, but it was like split second. If you did not do it like right when that thing flashed, boom. Like I remember the very first level is like you're dealing with some witch or something like that, and and you're trying to get something from hers, and you gotta move around her or something, but it would always be like it would flash to the right. So you always had to move the joystick to the right. And then it would always flash. I always hit the joystick to the right, but I would never get it in time, and I always get hit in the head. No matter how often I play it, I was never quick enough. I never got past that single point in the game.
That was a terrible
Fuck
game.
that
I
game.
hated that game.
Fuck Dragon's
The
Lair.
holograms were dope, though.
No, the game
holograms
looked
were
great.
dope.
It
Actually reminded me of like the Star Wars chessboard, honestly, in some ways.
The holograms.
No, there's no holograms. It was like you're playing the movie.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was like
No, the Dragon's Lair game I'm thinking of was like a glass table, and you looked in the glass table, and there were like holograms in there.
that's a different
that's
game.
not. Yeah, that's not the one.
That's
I'm
a different
talking
game. That sounds cool. The Dragon Lair.
No, I
believe
think
me,
that was the game that I'm thinking of.
Believe me, Clint.
About. Yeah, look up that game because I
If you play
I
the
know what
Dragon's
you're
Lair
talking
game
about.
we're talking about, you would literally, I mean, when you had hair, you'd pull your hair out, Paul. Seriously, this game sucked. And then you turn into a skeleton.
Yep, and you just die.
You just
Here we
die.
go.
What game is it?
It's no. Maybe I'm mistaken. I
Yeah.
thought that. I don't know.
But it is a game, right?
I thought so, but I think I'm mistaken. I think maybe I'm thinking of a different game.
Oh, that's fine, Clint. You know what? There's these old games that we've all played too many times, and we're old now, and we forget, man.
I do remember like a hologram game being.
No,
at,
I know what you're
Gunland.
talking- I know
But
what
maybe
you're
it was, I
talking
thought it was
about.
Dragon's Lair, but maybe it wasn't.
No,
Dragon's Lair.
no. Dragon's Lair. Believe me, you would remember Dragon's Lair.
Maybe it wasn't Dragon's Lair. Maybe it was Dragon Slayer.
No, maybe it was Dragons Lay Her.
This guy.
Oh shit! I'll play that one for sure.
So another one we have is Pit Fighter. You guys have mentioned it.
Yeah, Pit Fighter. You got to avoid that.
Pit
game.
Fighter, it was one of the first games that had the what is it? The
Stop motion
stop
animation?
motion, the capture.
Yeah.
And I think Howie Long was in it. Was it? Or
Was he?
It was like a football player was in it, and I'm pretty sure it was Howie.
I remember
Long
there was
or
like one of the characters.
Romanowski or
I remember one of the
something.
characters he was like a big dude with like the blonde.
Yeah, it was a white guy.
Mohawk.
Yeah, yeah.
Or not mohawk, but flat top.
It was such a terrible game.
Are you
It was
talking about
Look at him.
Bosworth?
Brian Bosworth? the
Yeah,
Boz?
maybe that was Boz.
No,
but
but
I remember what was so
was a
horrible
popular
about that game is that when most fighting games introduce a character to have like a little animation or just show like E Honda versus Chun-Li or whatever. This one, a guy would be standing on a pallet on a forklift. It would drive him into the pit, and the forklift would lower him down on the pallet, and he'd jump off.
It says here that Pit Fighter is the second game to ever use digitized sprites.
It looks like it's violent.
What's the first one?
Chinese Exorcist. Who knows? Home Data made it. I don't know. Some Japanese game. or Chinese game.
Either way, it's a terrible game. It's a poor excuse of a fighting game in my eyes.
So was Karate Champ.
It's Karate Champ too. That was a terrible
It's garbage.
Game. It was a terrible game, but it was.
I only played the NES version.
It was one of the first. People love it. I think it was.
I have it on NES. It's trash.
It was. It's
Yeah.
it's
Oh no,
trash.
yeah. It's
It's the
garbage.
first
on the
fighting.
NES.
Karate
I can
Champ
only
was one of
imagine
the
how it
very
was in the
first
arcade.
fighting game, but I hated Karate Champ.
Karate. Okay, what about Fighting Street and Street Fighter the
All right.
movie, the game?
All
Talk
right.
about those.
All right, so Fighting Street. If you guys don't know what it is,
And this is the one with Ryu with red hair.
yes, this is pretty much Street Fighter 1, but it is called Fighting Street. And here's where you get
Yes.
Sagat, you get
Ryu.
I think you get Ken in this one, if you want to. I think it's one of the opposite ones. I think you get Duck from the Final Fantasy, the final fight, or it's one of the guys, or the guy that looks like a samurai.
Okay.
You know, you get him in there, and you get
Because there's only 4 characters, right?
yeah, it's a terrible fighting game.
Yeah.
It says here that the arcade was called Street Fighter, but the TurboGrafx 16 version was called Fighting Street.
Okay, so it's Street Fighter. Okay,
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Because when I played it, I was in.
They look the same.
No, it's exactly when I was playing. I was playing an international version. The international version was Fighting Street, and I was like, "What the hell is this?"
So what were the controls like?
They were very stiff. They were like the biggest improvement from part 1 and part 2 were the controls and graphics. The controls were so much more intuitive in part 2 compared to part 1. It feels like you were like when you were jumping in part 1. It's like if you didn't get it exactly in a diagonal, you were literally jumping it straight up.
But like, I want to say that because with Street Fighter, you've got 3 kick, 3 punch buttons.
Right.
With this one, wasn't there like just 1 kick, 1 punch?
It was. I think it was 2 and 2 or something. 1 and 1. It was very, very bad. I'd only play this game for history's sense or history's sake.
2 giant fucking buttons.
There you go.
1 punch, 1
One
kick.
kick. There you
And they
go.
weren't like just little tiny arcade. They were like these giant fucking rubber mash
were-
things.
they were-
That's
were-
why I hated the game.
They were very bad.
But yeah, it looks like a Ken right there on the machine.
Yeah, I told you. You can meet either one of them.
Ken or Ryu are the
Yeah.
playable
And
characters.
now the second one that Clint mentioned, which was based off the 1990s movie of Street Fighter, which was called
With Jean-Claude.
And I'm not kidding. It's called Street Fighter the movie, the game. That's the movie. And
And Jean-Claude was not in the game, by the way.
no, it was some other dude that they made look like
Jean-Claude.
Yeah, it's a stop motion capture.
A
Street
Mortal
Fighter game.
Kombat 1 style
Yes.
Street Fighter game without the fatalities,
Without the
based on the characters from the movie.
It was a horrendous fighting game because they tried to make it like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat at the same time. but
Yep.
they did exactly the opposite and made it worse in
Yep.
every way.
Have you actually played this one, Clint?
Have you ever played this?
Actually, the funny thing is the graphics, like, the HUD looks Mortal Kombat-ish. It doesn't look...
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, so they tried to make a Street Fighter Mortal Kombat combination.
Capcom
and
didn't... they published it. They didn't develop it, though.
No.
Thank
they
God.
They didn't want a part. I mean, I like the movie, but I understand that it's an abomination. But I like the film. This I do not like.
Let's review the movie.
We're gonna have to. We're gonna have to
wanna
do the
review
whole
it.
thing where like we're watching it and reviewing it at the same time.
Do commentary? Yeah. That's one thing I want to start doing is just start doing commentaries.
But this is one of the ones to avoid. I try it just for the F of it and just have fun. But this game,
Yeah.
If you ever want to play a fighting game and you're like, oh shit, the Street Fighter, the movie, the game is here. You know what?
Do yourself a favor.
Save your quarter and play Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Don't skip the Pit Fighter game. Go to Mortal Kombat. What's other games that were?
What else do I have?
Diva has one more on there called 18-Wheeler American.
I remember.
I've played this game and it's just so frustrating. It's impossible.
This game was at Dave and Buster's, and when you're drunk, every game looks fun. You want to try it once, right? I'm like, hey, I'm white trash. I'll play a giant 18-wheeling game. It's fuck this game. It was a racing game where you were racing 18-wheelers, and you had to get to certain spots in a certain time to deliver your cargo. But it had this giant ass wheel, which apparently is what they have in 18-wheelers. And the controls were so horrible because it took into consideration you got this giant trailer in the back. So you're trying to beat this clock to get to deliver your cargo in a certain time. It was just, it was pointless.
Remember the airplane simulation game that they had at Dave & Buster's where you were just flying an airplane?
Oh, Jesus, yes.
This is terrible.
Yes.
Too. There's like, okay, I'm flying an airplane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
People like that kind of thing.
Dude, every time we went, there was at least one person
there was
playing
someone
it.
trying to play that game because
The one time I tried it, like
I crashed that.
No. Remember, I remember I would play it because I wanted to crash in the buildings. You just bounce off the buildings.
Yeah, they
wouldn't let you crash in the buildings.
Yeah.
There's one game in particular that lives on in infamy in our hearts, and that is a game called Arctic Thunder.
What?
Gooch, explain.
All right, so it's like I don't understand. All right, so this was a game of the Buster, and these fools bring it up because they're making fun of me, but I love it. This is a
Hey
great
man,
game.
I was right there with you. I was on the floor rolling.
All right, so this is like a racing game, kind of like how what Wave Runner or something. What's that?
Yeah,
game?
It's like a ski,
it's
water
a,
skis?
yeah, it's like a snow sled sort of racing
like a
game.
snow speeder game. And instead of being humans on the thing, there's like
Well, no, they're
there
humans. They're humans.
Was
but
there humans? I thought it was
one
like-
character was the abominable snowman.
Oh yeah, right. It was like
The
a
Yeti.
monkey. It was a Yeti.
Yeah, he was a yeti.
So
And
like
Lucho,
I chose to play this guy, right?
Of course you picked the Yeti.
And of course I picked the Yeti. And like I was drunk at the time, mind you.
we
And-
were fucking blasted.
And apparently, when this fool goes over like a jump or something, he does like a weird like a
side flip.
sideways,
Yeah.
a sideways,
or a
a
twirl.
spin, a twirl, and like it caught me so off guard that I just literally just broke up laughing and like fell on the floor just laughing, busted up in David Buster, which is like a huge place if you guys ever been there.
Yeah.
And like I just could not stop laughing. It was like 15 minutes. It's like just busting up because the way he did it, it was like it was so. I mean, he is a monkey. He was a yeti, but it was so. It was like chimpanzee-esque. That the way he did it was like ooh, and he did like a little twirl. It just caught me so off guard that I just could not stop laughing. And like I started laughing, and
I started laughing.
Everyone else started.
Have you ever
laughing.
heard Gooch's laugh? You might just laugh because to hear him laugh.
It was so contagious. Like other people, we didn't even know we started laughing for no reason.
The best part about it too is that the game was right near, like, because there was that hallway where you had to walk out to leave the back of the
Yeah,
building,
yeah.
and this was like at the very exit
we
of
were
the
almost
game room.
leaving, and he jumped on at the last second.
Because D&B was closing down.
Gooch was like, I better use my tokens.
Yeah, I got one talking about. I was drunk and drive home anyway. Shit happens. Security guard's standing right there, just staring at us on the floor. Lucho's on the floor, laughing his ass off. I'm just sitting
he
there.
wasn't smiling.
I'm crying because I'm laughing
it was
so hard.
It was so funny.
This shit was fantastic. Another game you have to avoid: the Ghostbusters.
The Ghostbusters game, the arcade game. Oh my gosh! Not only the arcade game, but the NES game. Both of them are equal.
At least the NES game has stuff to do with the movie.
Yeah, the arcade game.
The Ghostbusters arcade game has nothing to do with the movie, nothing to do with the cartoon. You're just three guys that happen to shoot projectiles in like some weird version of hell.
I don't know what it is.
And
It's
there's
fucking
just
terrible.
a bunch of random monsters. Like
Yeah.
nothing. There's only one thing about this game that it resembles the movie or the cartoon is that there's a green ghost that looks like Slimer.
Slimer.
But I don't even think it's called Slimer. It's just a ghost.
It's Ghost. It's very bad.
One last question for you guys.
Yeah.
I have a story to tell. When I was young, I went to I believe a pool hall down in LA with my
Wow,
uncles. And
Smoking cigars.
it's one of those ones where, like, obviously they serve alcohol and all this.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that was the first time I actually tasted Budweiser. I was like, this is terrible.
Drink the
but
yak.
in that pool hall, I was walking around while they were playing, and they had an arcade. And
Okay.
in that arcade, they had a particular type of game that we have not mentioned that I believe had some sort of market. There were porn arcade games.
Oh, I remember these
I've
guys.
played some of these before.
I didn't want to mention these games because I thought they. But which one was yours? I have one. I don't know what Diva. I know you.
Yeah,
I
wanna hear
I
these.
just know the game that I played. It was like an actual game, but at the end of each stage, you took off like a piece of clothing. But the funny thing was, there were some that had like drawn women, and other ones that had like real like playmates and whatever have you that you took off parts of their outfit and stuff like that.
Okay. So mine, I used to go with my dad to San Jose Live to go on every Sunday to go watch the 49ers play.
Okay.
You remember San Jose Live?
I do.
Anyways, and they had this. It was actually on the bar, and this is actually the same place where I played Mortal Kombat.
So it was
the
on
first
the
time.
tabletop of
It was
the
a,
bar.
it was a tabletop,
Okay,
one of those
yes,
like
yes,
little
yes,
small, little tiny tabletop ones. And the game, I just put in my quarter, go to the puzzle game, and it was a giant board.
Yeah, you do.
And your little character, and you'd cut off pieces of the
Yes,
board.
yes, those are
And as you're
classic.
cutting it off, it would reveal a picture underneath. And every picture was a naked lady.
Yes.
And so here I am, gosh, maybe
It's a beautiful thing.
8, 9, 10. And I'm sitting there cutting off stuff. And like, because when you go to cut off the thing, there's like a bug or a monster or something like this chasing you. So you have to like, it won't chase you if you're on the edge of the board. And so the thing is, you go around the edge of the board and you cut off a piece. And as you get off the edge, the thing will come towards you. So you have to try to trick it and move around to cut off all pieces of the board. But I was just sitting there just cutting off pieces of the board and like, all right, here, all right, well, there's some titty, there's some bush, and just naked ladies left and right. It was fantastic.
So I played both of those games, by the way, and at the time too. What I got you guys beat because when I was younger, my folks would go to Chile, and in Chile we'd have international games, and especially international games from Japan.
Oh.
So
Was it hentai?
No, it wasn't hentai. It was worse. So there was this game, and we were there, and we were like, we were there, and me and my bro were watching there, and there was this game. There was a weird game. It was like there was like this joystick. It was like a Flesh Killer joystick. And I went to the game and I was like, "What the fuck is this game about?" And you put your token in, and it was literally a game, and you had to stroke the damn joystick. It was a game like, and the game itself was like there was like a man and a woman, having sex, but the whole thing was that you had to make the guy come in the game. So what the game was that you had to stroke this joystick and make the guy come in the game, and that was the game.
That explains why you're so good at it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the game was called. I've seen it again, but that's what the game was. And it literally the joystick was a penis, and there was the two
phallus.
the two buttons. No, it was a penis. The two buttons were like his balls. So you have to hit, you'd have to hit his balls on something. It was
You gotta play piano on his balls.
I played it once. And I was like, I don't
Was the
that's
strategy
just
to
dirty.
stroke and then like juggle?
No.
Or-
What happened was that there was
maybe
there was
the ladies to talk about this.
The choices were like 1 and 2,
Okay,
like whether
okay,
you want fellatio or you want
I was just going to
anal.
ask, would you get bonus points if you put it in your mouth?
I don't know. I was 9 years old.
And would you get more points the deeper you went?
I don't know, dude. I was 9. Never
Don't
played it
stop
again.
till you hit the back of the throat.
What's this?
Is that the game?
Street Fighter 2. That's funny.
Wait, what?
I
Street
never-
Fighter?
I never played Street Fighter 2.
Oh, I want to play.
So.
It's
Let-
a
let-
TurboGrafx 16 game.
Let's set up a Twitch channel. We'll play some
it
Street Fighter.
explains a lot why we are like this, but yes.
Dude, we should do a. Dude, we should. Fuck, I want to review some of those adult
chicks
games.
are-
I want to review some of
the
those porn
Japanese
games.
ones are funny because they have like real actual chicks.
So
I want to review the porn games. I want to review the porn parodies.
yeah,
That'd be fun.
funny.